Have you ever wondered whether the love you feel is truly for the person standing before you, or if it is merely a reflection of something hidden within yourself? What if the intensity, the fascination, the overwhelming pull was less about them and more about the secret depths of your own soul calling out to be seen? Projection of the unconscious is one of the most subtle yet powerful forces that shape human relationships. When we meet someone, especially in moments of vulnerability or longing, the unconscious mind often begins to cast its images upon them. We do not see them as they are in their reality. Instead, we see the echo of our own inner world reflected in their presence. It is as if the psyche holds a hidden mirror, and through it, we are confronted not with the person standing before us, but with the unacknowledged desires and forgotten aspects of ourselves. This phenomenon is why so many initial encounters feel electrifying, almost fated, as if destiny has aligned us with the missing fragment of our soul. Yet what is truly occurring is the meeting of the conscious mind with its own shadow or unlived potential disguised as another person. The unconscious is vast, containing everything that has been repressed, denied, or left unexpressed. It holds the forgotten longings of childhood, the unmet needs of the heart, and the qualities we have not yet developed. When another person enters our life, especially one who stirs deep emotions, the unconscious finds a canvas on which to project these buried elements. We may believe we are falling in love with them, but more often we are falling in love with the part of ourselves that we have never fully recognized. That is why people describe new love as intoxicating. It is not simply the person that captivates us, but the sudden awakening of our inner depths brought to the surface through projection. This explains why the early stages of attraction can be so deceptive. We are gripped by the feeling that we have found someone extraordinary, someone who completes us, when in reality we are gazing into the reflection of our own psyche. The beloved becomes larger than life, idealized, and sometimes placed on a pedestal that no human being could genuinely sustain. What we fail to see in these moments is the distinction between who they are and who we imagine them to be. The unconscious has painted them in colors of desire, fear, and longing, and we are left spellbound by the image we ourselves have created. This is not to say that projection is inherently negative. It can act as a guide, pointing us toward what we lack within ourselves and revealing qualities that demand integration. If we are drawn to someone's strength, perhaps it is because we have neglected our own. If we are fascinated by someone's creativity, perhaps it is because our own creative spirit has been hidden. The other person becomes a vessel through which the unconscious delivers a message, to turn inward, to reclaim what has been lost, and to awaken what has been dormant. However, when we confuse projection with genuine love, suffering arises. For eventually, the illusion must shatter, and we are left confronting both the reality of the other person and the emptiness within that we once believed they would fill. It is in recognizing projection that true awareness begins to form. To see clearly, one must ask, am I loving this person as they truly are, or am I merely enchanted by what they awaken within me? The answer is never simple, but it is essential, for without it we risk mistaking the mirror for the face behind it. The difference between illusion and reality in matters of love is often the most difficult to discern because the human heart longs to be fulfilled, and the mind is eager to construct meanings that align with that longing. When we encounter someone who sparks an emotional reaction, the imagination can quickly weave a story around them, transforming them into an ideal that feels destined. Illusion arises when the picture in our mind overtakes the truth of who the other person really is. We may see them as flawless, endlessly understanding, and perfectly suited to our needs, when in fact these qualities are projections from within. Reality, on the other hand, emerges only when we strip away the veil of our fantasies and engage with the actual being before us, with their complexities, contradictions, and imperfections intact. Illusion thrives on idealization. It is born from the unconscious desire to complete ourselves through another, to find in them the qualities that we feel are missing in our own nature. This is why someone can appear almost godlike in our perception, shining with qualities that feel too perfect to belong to ordinary life. Under the spell of illusion, we may overlook their faults, dismiss the discomforts they bring, and rationalize behaviors that would otherwise disturb us. We cling to the image rather than the person, and in doing so we create a fragile construct that cannot endure the test of time. The intensity of this illusion can be exhilarating, producing a sense of ecstasy, but it is ultimately unsustainable because it is not grounded in truth. Reality, in contrast, demands courage. It asks us to see the other not as we wish them to be, but as they are. This includes their strengths and their weaknesses, their light and their shadow, their beauty and their flaws. To love in reality is to embrace another as a whole being, not merely as an idealized extension of our own longing. It is less intoxicating at first, less glamorous, because it does not rely on fantasy. Yet it is deeper and more enduring because it is built on recognition rather than projection. Where illusion denies imperfection, reality accepts it. Where illusion creates dependency, reality fosters growth. The struggle between illusion and reality is the struggle between desire and truth. Desire compels us to grasp at the image, to believe we have found completion in another. Truth whispers that no one outside ourselves can fully complete us, that love can only thrive when both individuals stand as whole beings in their own right. When we cling to illusion, disappointment is inevitable, for no human being can sustain the weight of such perfection. When we accept reality, we allow love to exist on solid ground, where mutual respect, understanding, and authenticity can flourish. The journey from illusion to reality is painful for many because it requires letting go of cherished fantasies. Yet it is only through this shift that genuine love can be recognized. Illusion dazzles the senses, but reality nourishes the soul. The former blinds, the latter reveals. The difference lies in whether we choose to remain enchanted by the dream or awaken to the truth of the person standing before us. Emotional intensity and deep connection are often mistaken for the same thing, yet they arise from very different places within the human psyche. Emotional intensity tends to erupt suddenly, flooding us with passion, desire, and a sense of urgency. It feels like a fire that consumes, demanding attention and leaving little space for reflection. It overwhelms the senses and convinces us that we have stumbled upon something extraordinary, something fated. This intensity is often driven by projection, by the unconscious mind pouring its hidden needs and desires onto another person, making them appear as the answer to everything we lacked. The result is a dizzying high, intoxicating and magnetic, but often unstable and fleeting. Deep connection, however, is of an entirely different nature. Where emotional intensity rises like a storm, deep connection settles like still water. It carries a quiet recognition, a sense of familiarity that does not rely on constant stimulation or heightened drama. In its presence, there is a grounding quality, as though two souls recognize one another not through fantasy, but through truth. Deep connection does not need to burn brightly to be real, for its strength lies in its steadiness. It does not consume, but rather sustains. There is passion, but it is balanced with calm. There is attraction, but it is tempered with understanding. There is excitement, but it coexists with peace. The danger lies in mistaking emotional intensity for love. Many people find themselves caught in cycles of fiery passion, believing its overwhelming energy to be proof of destiny, only to watch it collapse under the weight of its own instability. Such intensity thrives on highs and lows, often leading to obsession, insecurity, or dependency. It is exhilarating because it feels larger than life, but that very largeness reveals its fragility. It is like trying to build a home upon waves, for no foundation exists beneath the surface. Once the initial thrill fades, what remains is often disillusionment, the painful realization that what seemed eternal was only temporary. Deep connection, by contrast, may not dazzle in the beginning, but it reveals its strength over time. It allows two individuals to see one another clearly, without the distorting lens of projection. It provides space for growth, for vulnerability, and for the unfolding of genuine intimacy. Where intensity often demands constant reassurance, connection allows for trust. Where intensity feeds on fantasy, connection thrives on truth. It is not about the fire that burns quickly, but about the flame that endures. To discern between the two requires self-awareness and honesty. One must ask whether the bond feels like a consuming rush that cannot be sustained, or whether it feels like a recognition that continues to deepen with time. Emotional intensity speaks loudly, but fades quickly. Deep connection speaks softly, but grows stronger with each passing moment. One exhausts the heart, the other nourishes it. Emotional intensity may feel like love's arrival, but deep connection reveals love's essence. Growth and self-discovery are at the heart of what distinguishes true love from mere projection. When love is authentic, it does not simply offer comfort or validation. It challenges us to expand beyond the limits of our current self. It awakens aspects of our being that might have remained dormant, and calls us to confront both the beauty and the darkness within. Projection, by contrast, tends to trap us in familiar cycles, repeating patterns from the past without ever moving us forward. It can feel intense and meaningful, but it often reinforces old wounds rather than guiding us toward healing. True love, however, becomes a mirror not of illusion, but of reality, showing us who we are and who we have the potential to become. In genuine love, we are confronted with the necessity of growth. This growth is rarely easy because it requires a willingness to face the unconscious patterns that surface in relationship. The beloved becomes a catalyst for self-awareness, reflecting back to us the parts of ourselves we would rather avoid. At times, this can be uncomfortable, even painful, because true love demands honesty not only with the other, but also with ourselves. It reveals insecurities, exposes fears, and highlights the places where we are still incomplete. Yet this confrontation is not meant to break us, but to shape us into a fuller, more authentic version of who we are meant to be. Projection, on the other hand, seduces us with the illusion of wholeness. It makes us believe that by merging with another, we will find completion. This belief often leads to dependency, as if the other person holds the key to our inner fulfillment. But such a dynamic prevents genuine self-discovery because it distracts us from turning inward. Instead of confronting our own shadow, we become entangled in the fantasy that someone else can carry it for us. The result is stagnation, a repetitive cycle of seeking outside what must be found within. True love breaks this cycle by insisting on authenticity. It does not allow us to hide behind illusions for long. When the initial glow fades, what remains is the opportunity to grow together in truth. In this space, love becomes a teacher. It teaches patience, resilience, forgiveness, and above all, self-knowledge. The presence of the beloved does not erase our struggles, but helps illuminate them, guiding us toward greater awareness. The relationship becomes a crucible, where both individuals are refined, not through the comfort of fantasy, but through the challenge of reality. Self-discovery within love is not limited to recognizing flaws. It also involves awakening to our hidden strengths. Often, it is through the encouragement and presence of another that we begin to see what has long been buried within us: our capacity for compassion, creativity, courage, and depth. Love draws these qualities out, not by supplying them from the outside, but by calling forth what already resides within. Through this process, we come to understand that true love is not about losing ourselves in another, but about finding ourselves more completely through the connection. Growth and self-discovery are therefore the marks of authentic love. They distinguish it from projection, which seeks escape, while love seeks transformation. Projection may soothe temporarily, but true love reshapes us, calling us to become more conscious, more whole, and more alive. Recognition of the whole person is perhaps the deepest sign that love has moved beyond projection and into authenticity. When love is rooted in illusion, the other is seen only in fragments, through the glow of idealization or the haze of fantasy. Certain traits are magnified while others are ignored, creating a distorted image that cannot truly hold the fullness of who they are. In such a dynamic, we fall in love not with a human being, but with a carefully constructed reflection of our own inner world. Yet genuine love demands something more difficult and far more rewarding. It asks us to see and embrace the entire person with all their complexity, contradictions, and imperfections. To recognize the whole person is to resist the temptation of selective vision. It requires us to look beyond the parts that please us and confront the aspects that challenge us. Every individual carries both light and shadow, strengths and weaknesses, beauty and brokenness. To love authentically means to allow all of these facets to exist within our vision, without denying or dismissing what makes us uncomfortable. This kind of recognition is not blind, it is clear-eyed. It sees flaws not as threats to love, but as integral parts of the human experience. In this way, love ceases to be an escape into fantasy and becomes an act of deep acceptance. Projection blinds us to this reality because it operates by exaggerating the traits we desire while erasing the ones we fear. A person might appear endlessly kind, perfectly wise, or unfailingly supportive because we unconsciously project our longing for these qualities onto them. But as time passes, the hidden parts of their nature inevitably emerge and disappointment often follows. The collapse of the projection can feel like betrayal, yet it is in fact the unveiling of reality. The question then becomes whether we are able to love not just the image but the true individual behind it. True love thrives in this unveiling. It does not retreat when imperfections arise but learns to integrate them into the bond. To love someone wholly is to acknowledge their humanity, to honor both their brilliance and their limitations. It is to recognize that they are not here to complete us or to embody our fantasies, but to walk beside us as an autonomous being with their own inner world. In such recognition, love becomes less about possession and more about communion, less about fulfilling our unmet needs, and more about encountering another soul in its depth and totality. This kind of love requires humility, for it means releasing the demand that the other conform to our ideals. It requires patience, for it takes time to truly see someone as they are, and it requires courage, for it involves embracing vulnerability and imperfection. Yet the reward is profound, for in recognizing the whole person, we create the possibility of genuine intimacy. It is only when we allow the other to exist in their fullness that love transcends illusion and becomes real, offering not just passion but enduring connection rooted in truth. Love is one of the most profound mysteries of human life, yet it is also one of the easiest places to lose ourselves in illusion. We are often captivated by projection, mistaking the reflection of our own hidden desires for the reality of another person. We become intoxicated by emotional intensity, only to discover it burns too quickly to endure. We are tempted by the comfort of fantasies, forgetting that true love requires us to embrace the whole person, with all their shadows and imperfections intact. Yet it is precisely in this tension between projection and truth, between illusion and reality, that the transformative power of love is found. Authentic love does not shield us from ourselves. It confronts us with our own depths. It awakens what lies dormant, challenges us to grow, and calls us to recognize both the beauty and the brokenness in another soul. Where projection imprisons us in cycles, love liberates us. Where illusion blinds, love reveals. To know whether what you feel is true love or just projection, you must ask yourself, am I seeing clearly, or am I merely enchanted by my own reflection? Am I clinging to fantasy, or am I embracing the real and imperfect human being before me? The answers are rarely simple, but they are essential, for only by seeing truthfully can love become more than a fleeting dream. It can become a path of self-discovery, wholeness, and genuine union. True love does not complete us, it awakens us. It is not the loss of the self into another, but the recognition of two souls walking side by side, each becoming more fully alive because of the encounter. That is where illusion ends and love truly begins.